Good evening, everybody. It is 8 o'clock and it is Monday evening, so you know what time it is. It's time for What's the 411. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, I am your host, Miss Ellie, coming to you from my home right here in Toronto. Of course, you know, I love the big city, Toronto, Canada. We're out here and we're ready. We're ready to talk to our special guest tonight, Nicole Salmon, who's been on the show before. She always comes, brings that energy. She always brings that education. She's always coming and dropping those gems for us. We just want her to bless us again with her presence and with her information because she is super knowledgeable, super knowledgeable. So very excited, very happy to have y'all with me today on this beautiful Monday, beautiful day. I'm not sure if everybody's seen that storm last night. Where were you when that storm hit? It didn't last too long, right? It didn't last too long, but it was still really nice to have the rain come down and cool things off a bit. Even though I'm not complaining about the heat, because when wintertime comes, you know, we experience winter for a lot longer than we have the summer. So super grateful for, of course, our summer months, right? I just want to thank my guests from last week. We had Tiffany Williams, Miss Tiffany Williams, who came all the way through with her financial information. So I just, I'm super blessed to have all of these different individuals coming on and sharing their knowledge with us. And I hope that if you didn't get a chance to check out the live last week, that you definitely get a chance to check out the live on my IGTV, because they are all posted on IGTV. So go ahead and run over to IGTV if you didn't get a chance to watch it live last week, because it's there. And I have all the rest, or most of the rest of my Instagram videos, my interviews on IGTV as well. So I'm very excited to have that opportunity on IGTV, because it wasn't there before. We only had a 24-hour window to watch our lives. So I'm very happy and blessed to have that. So yes, go and check it out on IGTV. I just want to let you guys know, if you are interested, if you have a business or you know anybody who does have a business and is looking to be advertised. Now, this is free advertisement, commercial, infomercial, or even a small segment. I am actually hosting a summit August 22nd, so I would just love to invite all of you to support the summit. Once I have all of the information, all of the details laid out, I'm going to make sure that I put it out there for you to support. But if you know of anybody that's looking to, advertise their business, just let me know, and we'll definitely have a commercial ran on the summit for them. It's a virtual summit, so we are still maintaining our social distancing and our COVID-19 protocol with everything, right? So again, there are a lot of things going on right now. There's a lot of informational summits. There's a lot of different things happening in our community, and they're all virtual. So while we are dealing with a lot of challenges around this situation and this time right now, we're still grateful and thankful that we are still able to connect with each other, virtually. We're still able to check each other out and connect virtually. My eye is tearing up. I don't know why. But yes, so that is exciting. I'm very excited about it. August 22nd, mark your calendars. It is a Saturday. And the day is going to be great. It's going to be filled of different individuals who are going to be just educating us. Not only are they going to be educating us on different, issues here in Ontario, Canada, but globally, because we do have a couple of international individuals who are going to be with us globally. So we're very excited about that. So yeah, we are here, we are ready, and we're excited about our special guest today, Nicole Salmon. So as soon as she pops on the live, we're definitely going to just jump right into it. You know how we do. Excuse me. We're just going to jump right in and start talking about purpose. And I'm really excited about our conversation today. I mean, usually when Nicole comes on, oh, there she is. She just popped on. She's always giving us that knowledge. She's giving us those gems, all about what she has to say today. So Here she comes. Hey,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I love your hats in the back.
Oh, thank you.
Nice, nice. So how are you doing?
Um, I shouldn't, I want to say tired, but I shouldn't be because I've been off for the last week. So, I don't think it's tired. I think I'm anxious actually to get back to work and to get back to my clients. So I think I'm more restless than tired.
So have you been off?
Yeah, I've been off. Last week was our anniversary, so we went to Prince Edward County. We
Okay.
left last Tuesday and we came back on the weekend. So I've been off of
Hmm.
work from Tuesday and I'm back in office tomorrow. So I'm pretty. It's been so hard to
Nice.
not, So I'm anxious to get back though.
Nice, nice. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary. So how long?
Only 4 years. We're still toddlers.
Only, that's wonderful. That's good. 4 years is it's still a milestone, right?
It is, especially in today's climate. Like people separate because they don't like the way someone sneezes. So, you know, we're in it for 4 years. There are many who started out the same year that we did, and they're no longer together. And so we don't take 4 years for granted. So we're still
For
here.
real. Yeah. So how was Prince Edward County, did you say?
Yeah, gorgeous. 2.5 hour
Yeah.
drive from Brampton. Um,
Okay.
yeah, we did a lot. We went to the beach. We went to a vineyard. They're not doing tours yet, but they are doing wine tasting. So we did that. We
Mhm.
did dining on the pier. We had a day where we just didn't leave the room. Um, we ate lots of really good food, and now we're back.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so introduce yourself, please. Let the audience know, a little bit about yourself. Even though you've graced us with your presence before, we still want to hear all about it.
Absolutely. So, hey everyone, my name is Nicole Salmon Smith. I don't usually use the marriage name, so since we're celebrating our anniversary, I thought I'd throw that in there so people do know who I belong to. I'm a minister and a purpose coach, and I journey with women to help them to demystify what purpose is so that they can show up in the world with clarity, with consistency, and with confidence. And I know today's conversation, I was so flattered when you're like, people enjoyed it, but they wanted to know more about you and your story. So I think the part
Right.
that I leave out of my introduction, that I leave from my bio, is that I'm a wife. I'm a mother of a blended family of five. So when my husband and I got married, I was a single mother and with one son, and he was divorced with three biological children and one bonus child that he had raised from his previous marriage. So we are a mashup of a very complex blended family of seven.
Wow, that's beautiful though.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, you got to give us some details about purpose. You're a purpose coach. What does that really mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say, like, most people are familiar with the book The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. I'm not sure
Hmm.
how old it is now, but when it came out in print, since print, it's sold over 5 billion copies, and that lets me know that there is a hungry quest, God-shaped hole in the world, regardless of race, regardless of religion. People really want to know, what on earth am I here for, right? And I think for centuries we have, speaking from a church perspective, because I'm a church baby and I'm a minister, we've often seen purpose as, what's this one thing God placed me on the earth to do? Like, I got to figure out, is it a career? Am I here
Right.
to move the civil rights movement forward? Like, God, why am I here? And we've treated it like some external treasure that God just
Mhm.
like dropped us here and was like, ha ha, go find it. Like, where is Waldo
Right.
on this whole big universe, right? And it's really not. And so as a purpose coach, I help to demystify that. And the biggest debunk around that is my purpose statement, which is that purpose isn't a destination, but it's a lifestyle. It's not a place um, that you live, that you are striving to get to, but rather it's a place that you live from. And so through coaching, through speaking, through facilitated programs and masterminds. I help women to get to understand their God design, get to understand their temperament, their spiritual gifts, their extroversion, all the wonderful things that make up who they are, so that they can start to show up, whether it's on their job. You mentioned the hats above. We often say, oh my gosh, especially as women, I wear so many hats. And one day I said, I'm going to stop saying that. I don't, because then there's a confusion and a busyness that comes with, like, well, which hat am I wearing today? And what if I show up somewhere with the wrong hat on the wrong day? I'm like, no, I don't wear many hats. I wear one hat. I love fedoras. I'm like, it's a splendid fedora. It's one hat, and I show up everywhere in the one hat. If you buck me at Costco, there's but one Nicole. If you meet me in the pulpit, there's but one Nicole. And so if we can start to live life from that place, we begin to show up more powerfully, and the gifts that God has placed in us, they get to flow out. And they don't get to flow out if we're running around shifting hats and trying to be what we think the world requires of us.
True. So in your life, how did you come to this definition of purpose?
It's very experiential, and it's biblical, right? So when we start in Genesis, and it talks about the creation of man, about God shaping Adam, mankind, in the dust, he says, then when he was done shaping him, then he said he breathed. And the word that's used there in the Hebrew, in the original language, is the word pneuma, which literally means the breath of God. When he breathed, he said, when he breathed into man, then he became a living being. And that word being doesn't just speak to our physicality, like, the body that we walk around with. It speaks to our essence, right? So when God shaped us, he breathed, he put a piece of himself into us, right? We bear the image of God. And he put an essence. We were created with a particular essence, a way we move. Like, everybody has a little gangster lean, a way that you show up in the world. And so constantly, when you read throughout the Bible, there's just this call, there's this constant pulling, and we feel it within ourselves. Sometimes we don't have the language for it, but it just feels like there's this internal GPS that no matter what mistakes we make, no matter what bad situations we find ourselves in, there's something that just seems to be calling us into a different direction. And that's what purpose is. That's what it is. Purpose is the function of a thing in its simplest form. It's not necessarily where the thing functions. Like, I'm sitting right beside a fan. Its function is to be who it is, which is a mechanism that cools down environments. It can be assigned to do that anywhere, just like we can be assigned to be who we are in many different environments in our lives. I can use the fan in my bedroom. I can use it in my office. I can use it really anywhere that I desire, that there's a need for it. But if that fan stops functioning, if it starts doing something different, because I know this fan as being a mechanism, a tool for cooling things down. That's what it's for. Right. That's what I know it for. And then if all of a sudden I'm like, girl, it's hot down here, where's my fan? And I bring it to my office and it starts blowing hot air, I don't have purpose for it. The same thing is true for us. God has put certain gifts and abilities in us. And so when we understand that and function, then we can start to be useful in the different spaces that we are needed, based on what's inside of us. And a lot of times we shape shift based on the environment that we're in. And really these purposeful, like, moments that we desire, the impact that we want to have in the world, we often miss the opportunity to have those because we are not consistently just being who we are. We don't do it consistently.
Right. So you were mentioning about the different hats that we put on and how, you anywhere anybody meets you, the store, the pulpit, wherever, you're always the same Nicole. Has that something that's changed, or have you always been that way?
No, it's been a journey, and it's a journey that it's a posture I have to wrestle to stay in on a daily basis, to stay in my lane. As I mentioned, I'm a church baby. I grew up in the church, and there were always a lot of expectations of me. Like, people were like, she's so well spoken, she's so smart, she's this, she's that. Oh my gosh, there's a calling on her life. She's gonna do something great. And so when I got pregnant, and I had to tell my pastor and eventually tell my church, like, that was devastating. Like, forget those that it was devastating for. It was just devastating for me. I was probably about 18. Yeah, I think I was 18 at the time. I was living on my own because my mother had passed away the year before from her battle with breast cancer. So from about the age of 16, 17, I was already living on my own. My mother passed away. Here's this church girl, and now I have to tell everybody I'm pregnant. And it was very, very difficult. It felt like anything, any hopes of anything good that I might produce in the world ended with that misstep. And so I lived under the weight of that condemnation for years. Like, people had gotten over it. God had long gotten over it. But I would hear, like, the negative conversation. Like, I would be in church, and I go to a Pentecostal church is bumping, and I want to be like, hallelujah. And, like, I would hear, sit your behind down. Nobody wants to hear from you. You're going to bring all this excitement again, and before you know it, you're going to fail, and you've brought eyes, like, you've attracted eyes on you again, and now you're just going to have a bigger audience to fail in front of. And so whatever God was trying to still pull out of me, I suppressed it because of the shame. And so I think fast tracking after kind of healing and coming through all of that, a big part of why I want to journey with women is because for years I thought that my mistakes had voided my purpose. And even every time I say it, sorry, I get so emotional. Because I thought, because of that misstep, there's no way God can use me. There's no way I can, like, I'm a young Black girl with a young Black boy. Like, that is my identity. That's just who I am. Just try to make the best of it. But it wasn't over, and it didn't void it. And God still wanted to use me. And there were still so many purposeful things that I could do in the world. And once I healed through that and came into that understanding, I wanted everybody to experience that. I wanted everybody to understand that, listen, there is just something that you do that no one else does it the way that you do it. There's a need of you in the world. It doesn't matter how filthy your hands have gotten in the process. Let's wash them off. Let's figure it out, and let's get you unstuck and moving in a purposeful way.
Wow. That is so powerful, because I'm sure everybody's experience is going to be different in life, but I'm sure we've all been in that space, you know what I mean, where we're not perfect, right? And we do things sometimes that we feel, can harm our purpose.
Yeah.
So you got to talk about it, Nicole. How did you, like, what are some of the steps you used to help push yourself? Like, you were saying in church, you were there and you had the negative talk in your mind. How did you train your mind to kind of ignore those thoughts?
Right. And you used the perfect word, training. It really was and is mental training. And it's not just something I did then. It's something that I practice fiercely and aggressively in my life, even now. There's a scripture, and it talks about, bringing down every imagination, pulling down every imagination that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. So here's the knowledge of God, what I know to be true. On a good day, you're like, yes, I'm forgiven, I'm blessed, I'm amazing, man, I'm a great speaker, da 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 da. And then here comes these thoughts that want to place themselves in a position that's higher than who God has told me and revealed to me that I am. So my job now is through training to start to pull those things down. And so the way that we do that is through conversation with ourselves. My self-talk is on another level. Like, it's on another level. I think I spend 85 to 92% of my day talking to myself, right? And so there have been, and it's more intense in different seasons. So the level of training that I needed in the beginning. I don't really need it as intensely now, but it took things like writing them on my bathroom mirror so that it would be the first thing that I would see and that would confront me in the morning. It was doing things like taking scriptures, putting my name into them and printing it out and putting it at the light switch, you know, by my bedroom door. So when I'm shutting things down to leave for the day or I'm coming in, I would see those promises where God says, I've called you. And I wouldn't just put I'd called you. I'd put I called you, Nicole. You, Nicole, are dot, 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 dot. And I would put my name in wherever those passages meant something to me. If there was a quote that I loved, I would put my name in there and I'd print it out and I'd have visual reminders. And I'd literally you have to interrupt the conversations that you have historically been having with yourself that have been sabotaging you from walking in the fullness of who you really are, you know? And so I think that when you talk about the training, it really is an exercise of, in church we would say, I bind that spirit. Well, what does that mean? Like, you say I bind that thing, but it really means to lay hold of. You can't physically lay hold of your thoughts, but you can arrest them with your own words. I always give the example of a telemarketer. They are trained in the art of rebuttals. If they call you right now to sell you long distance and you say everyone you know lives local, they've been trained to respond to that. If you say you don't use your phone that much, they've already been given a list of all the potential ways you might say no and how to turn it into a sale, how to turn it into a win. You've got to do the same thing with your mind. You've got to start to pay attention to what are all the negative conversations. What are the negative responses? Every time I'm about to get up and do something big, every time I'm about to get up and seize a destiny moment, what are the things I tell myself that are not serving me? Okay? Oh, I got you this time. You want to say I'm not smart enough? I got you. Here's what I'm going to say. You think you're not, you want to say I'm not prepared enough, mine? I got you. Here's what I'm going to say. And when you do that, sometimes we're waiting for the encouragement of other people. David in the Bible, David said, I had to encourage myself in the Lord. I'm not waiting for Sunday morning or for a prophet or somebody to come speak a word over me. I got to be gangster with this thing. And the scripture says that the kingdom of God suffers violence and the violent take it by force. Like we sit back and we let our mind just railroad over us, and there's opportunities right at our fingertips, and we just kind of go, no, you got to get gangster. You got to get some fight together. You got to say, you know what? You want to come violently at me? I'm going to take this destiny moment by force, and I'm going to take it by speaking my way into my destiny moments. I'm not going to just lay here anymore and build basically a stage for my fears to perform on. No, I'm going to close curtain. No, end scene. Let's try this again. What's the correct narrative, right? One of my big ones was perfection, right? Like I felt like everything had to be perfect. And so for a full year, the one thing that I would tell myself almost every day, multiple times a day, was completion over perfection. That's how I wrote my first book. Every time I was stalled trying to edit while I was writing, girl, completion over perfection. Just get it done. Just put it out there. Just post it. Just do it. Just whatever it was. When I felt myself stalling, because I would always stall a lot if I didn't think that things were just good enough that everyone was going to go, yay, Nicole. I would go completion over perfection. Get it done. Send the email. Send in the resume. Apply for the job. Send in the grant application. Just get it done, because there were so many years of not getting things done because I was letting that narrative control me and things weren't getting completed.
My goodness, that definitely puts a lot of things into perspective for a whole bunch, There's a lot of people out here that deal with challenges on a daily basis. So, I know you must have had some challenges to overcome. Besides using the mindset training to overcome some of your challenges, how do you use the word, like the Bible, to overcome some of those challenges?
They go hand in hand, right? Because it's not just your own words that you're reciting back to yourself, but you're taking the word of God and applying it to where it's necessary. And so spending I know reading the Bible can be really challenging for a lot of us because sometimes we read and we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But there are
Right.
different reasons why we read the Bible in our lives as a Christian discipline. And one of them is strictly dietary. Like, I don't like vegetables, but I need to eat them because they're good for me. I don't know why they're good for me. I don't know which vegetable gives me what vitamin and what it does. All I know is I
Mm-hmm.
need a regular intake of my fruits and my vegetables. The Bible is the same way. Every time you crack it open, you're not reading it for like divine revelation every time. You're not always gonna, but you're ingesting it for spiritual dietary purposes. Because the beautiful thing about ingesting the word for strictly dietary purposes is that when you reach those difficult situations, God can't pull out what you didn't put in. And you'd be surprised how the things that you read in one season that didn't mean anything in that season, all of a sudden it comes back to your remembrance in this season, and it makes perfect sense, and you can gather strength from it because you ate, you had your daily intake. And so a big part of our Bible really is really just spiritual dietary intake and making sure that we're just ingesting the word of God regularly. So at the right time, the Holy Spirit can kind of just bring it back to remembrance. And then we go, oh yeah, there's a scripture. That's why it says this and this and this. And that's why. And then all of a sudden the pieces start to connect, but that doesn't happen if you're not regularly, eating.
Very true. Very, very true. So, like in your walk with life, how does one like begin to build more of a relationship with the Lord? I mean, we're reading, we're trying to overcome these negative thoughts. What else can we do to help ourselves?
I compare it to just like how would you build a natural relationship, right? You think about how do you grow a natural relationship? You spend time, you communicate. You know, if it's whether it's a friendship or a platonic or romantic relationship, you start to, do little things to see if you can trust this person. You give them, you start to open up, you start to share, you start to. So developing our relationship with God is no different. If we are not careful, we will only do um, religious exercises and at the
Mm,
end of the day not realize that we have religion but we don't have relationship, you know.
mm,
And so yeah, reading your Bible is important and it serves its purpose. Going to church is important, but you can do all of those things and still have no relationship. Like we go to work every day. I have a relationship with those people. That's why there's a different word for them. They're not called friends, they're called colleagues. There are
true.
friends and there are colleagues, right? So it's very easy to just be doing all of this stuff and not really developing a relationship with God. And so I think that once we realize that God is not far off, but he's actually near and he desires to speak to us, and hearing his voice and hearing from him is not just for the preacher, it's not just for the pastor in the pulpit, but understanding the unique way that he speaks to your heart, and you start to hear his voice and you talk to him and you let him talk to you. You spend time outside of church, just like a natural relationship. Like, how would you feel if somebody only talked to you in like a public setting and you don't ever hear from them outside of that? You know what I
Mm,
mean? You start to be like, this relationship's a little suspicious.
yeah.
Like you don't ever call me, you don't ever talk to me, you don't ever spend time. There are times where I'm spending time with God is literally just putting on some worship music and just sitting, just being with him. Just like my husband thinks it's so funny that me and my best friend can be on the phone all day and not say anything to each other. Like, we call each other, I'm cooking, I'm doing stuff, and then he's asking me something and he's like, you on the phone still? I'm like, yeah. And but no, we're not talking, but the phone line is open. We're just we
Yeah.
just we like being in each other's presence. And
Yeah.
when we start to see God and our relationship with him in that way, in terms of moving, our spiritual disciplines definitely help to shape that. Worship, the word, prayer, meditation, solitude, all of those things. But when we start to make it a little bit more personal, intimate, it naturally starts to grow, just like a natural relationship starts to grow with the more time you spend with someone.
Yeah. So as we're talking about relationships, I want to talk a little bit about sisterhood. You are big on sisterhood. You're always doing stuff for the ladies. You know, you just finished Preach Sis. How was
Yes.
that?
It was phenomenal. We had 160 ladies, 168 ladies from all across the
Wow.
globe. It was
Yeah.
phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
And so for anybody who's watching and doesn't know what Preach Sis is all
Yeah,
about, why don't you give us a little
yeah. So Preach
description?
Sis is I usually say international, but I'm like, now I get to say is a
Yeah.
global event and movement, and it's created for really Christian communicators. It's a sisterhood. It's a community for women of faith who feel like they have a message to share, but maybe they have been reluctant in sharing it because their voice or their gift doesn't sound and show up like their pastor on a Sunday morning. And so it's really designed to expose women to other female Christian speakers who may have a different sound. Some are academics, some are, Pentecostal, Hooper and Hollis, some are facilitators, some are writers, vloggers, you name it. But really, they have a message to share, and it's just kind of like the our rule is anytime you hear something that hits your spirit, you say preach this. It doesn't matter if you identify as being a preacher. It just means I hear you. What you're saying hit me. I feel it. And when you say preach this, what you're saying to your sister is go on ahead and share. Go on ahead and speak. Go on ahead and tell your story. Go sing that song, girl. Hit that note. Whatever it is, when you hear another sister at the event say, preach, sis, that's just our sisterhood of saying, go on ahead and release what's inside of you.
Okay. So how long have you been doing Preach Sis?
Oh my gosh, I think it's only the second year. I don't know why it feels so long. It's the second year, but the third event. So last
Right.
year we did it here in the GTA in the Greater Toronto area, and in
Mm-hmm.
in the spring, and then in the summer we did the event in Atlanta, Georgia. And
Okay.
so this year, we were supposed to go to two other cities, but of course, because of COVID-19, it changed, and so it moved to a virtual experience, which was the one of the greatest things that could have really happened to the event and the movement. Because, like I said, then it began to attract women globally from the Middle East to South Africa to the Caribbean, you name it, it was in the house. And so yeah, it's just so 2 years, but three events. And believe it or not, I'm already planning for 2021, and I'm excited.
Yes, I remember our last show that we did together. You were talking about the show that you did in Atlanta. And if you could just bring us back there, because that was just epic. From the time that you booked it, you said pulling out of your driveway, just the faith
Yeah.
that you had to have on that journey there. Just talk about it because it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so I have this series that I'm doing right now, this speakers boot camp. And in a couple of weeks, I'll be doing the third series, which is called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I'm going to be focusing on how to bring your message to an international audience, because it's not just about getting invited to speak across borders, but there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes, and when God put it in my heart and opened the door for me to go to Atlanta, I didn't know what that meant or what that took. I had never taken an event across the border on my own before. And yeah, like I started putting I expected the same response that I had from Toronto. Toronto's home. So when I launched Preach This, we had about 100 women registered for Preach This here. So I'm like, yes, the momentum, the women from the States, they're watching. It was crickets. It was literally crickets. But I knew I was supposed to go. And I think when I left, maybe if I'm lucky, if I remember accurately, maybe like one or two people had registered. But everybody kept telling me the US market, they're still, don't worry, they're so different. They're very last minute. You're going to see like the morning of or the day of, like they're just going to flood the place. And that didn't happen. Like I remember waking up the Saturday morning. We arrived, I think the Friday or Thursday, yeah, Friday morning into Atlanta. Maybe we had three. And like I shared with you, when I left Toronto, there was a negative balance in my bank account. So I'm just like, I don't even know how I'm gonna survive in Atlanta, God, but this is really a faith, literally a faith trip. And yeah, we did not sell out. I know people like to say we sold out, and we did not sell out. Preach Sis Atlanta. We didn't even half sell out. Preach Sis Atlanta. We had a few walk-ins. I think by the time the event got up and going, we maybe had just around 20, maybe 20 to 23 ladies, if even. But it was powerful. It was. We even had somebody fly from Toronto to attend in Atlanta. She missed the Toronto one, but just felt like she just needed to be there. And I'm telling you, like, normally a big part of the structure of how the event runs is we do this Q&A with the panel, and God just shut it down. Like, it just turned into like a deliverance. Like, I think maybe 3 questions got out the gate, and just prophetic words just started flowing, and women were being delivered. I'm talking about not just crying, but I'm talking about people who were in the room struggling with demonic oppression and generational curses. It was like no other. And then it's like, it was twofold, right? So like, the event was for the women in the room, but selfishly it was for me, because like, it's almost like God had to literally take me out of, we hear it about moving out of I was literally out of my comfort zone. I didn't have my so-called tribe around me. My husband was with me, of course, and that was a blessing. But being in the room with those women, the women who spoke, Pastor Emmy was on the panel. Emmy, who else is there? Pastor Tyra Baruti was on the panel. Pastor Nancy Dozier, and Kia Stevens. And you would have thought we were friends for a lifetime. I literally physically met them for the first time when I got there, and God just even orchestrated all of that. And so that long-winded to say, like, a lot of times we want to wait for all the ducks to be in a row, and we want to wait till all the lights have turned green, and and all of those things. But even in having an event that wasn't sold out, and I had no idea what I was doing, he literally started a movement, because I went to Waycross after that, literally the next day, and it was like 2 hours away from where we were, and I preached that morning. And while I was preaching, someone in the back, and it was a white church, and in the back of the church, I heard, "Preach, sis." I was like, "Ah, what you know about preach, sis?" I was like, "This is crazy!" Like, this little girl from the six, you know what I'm saying? Like, out here representing, and I'm like, "You weren't even at my event. Well, how on earth do you know it?" It was just like amazing. I was just like, yeah, it was really, really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about it last time, and I was just like, wow, that's an inspiration, And you were talking about how you had even Preach Sis t-shirts and stuff, or like, just stuff, and people just bought it out, and you were just.
We went home with nothing. We went like merchandise wise, we went back home with nothing. And if you know anything about like American culture, like they have, I think we were talking about this last time, they have Cash App. Like, I don't know who's responsible for Cash App, but can we get it here? Like, can we get it here? Like, they just have a different culture around giving and spending than we do here in Canada, and more specifically in Toronto, and more specifically in Black communities, and more specifically in faith-based Black communities here in Canada, And so it was like, even though people came, I told you, even though people paid to come, at the event, the end of the event, the person who owned the place that I was having the event, she was like, "Y'all, we need to bless this woman of God. I know y'all paid to be here, but," she's like, "Girl, you got a Cash App?" Like, I'm like, "No, PayPal, like Square, use Square." Like, yeah, but they were just like, "Here's money." Like, and so we went from leaving Toronto in the red financially, to getting there, to having, by the time we left, like, we had money to go out for a really nice dinner. We checked out of our hotel because the church that I was going to be preaching at the next day, they're like, "Where you at?" He's like, "Your event done?" He's like, "Where you at? Check out, and just drive, just come. Like, we have a hotel for you. So that was an expense we didn't have to take care of. They had a hotel for us. They had someone meet us in the lobby when we went in the room. Like, I bawled because I'm just like, who am I? Like, there's this huge basket in the room with like snacks, and then they took us to dinner. And so we didn't have to come out of pocket for nothing. Like, we didn't have money when we left, but God made sure we had money when we were there. Even when we were there, we were taken out for dinner on the first night. So we had to come up out of pocket for very little. And like you mentioned, when the shirts sold out, the merch all sold out. And so we came back to Toronto with a profit. We came back with a profit. And I'm telling you, like, if God's giving you something to do, don't wait for, I know there's some logic. You're not going to make some, you need to be sensible, but, yeah, like, just have the faith to at least start moving in the direction, because I found that the more, with not just only with Preach This, but with anything that I've done over the last 3 years since I've left my 9-to-5 and stepped into what I call full-time purpose, every time I took a step, something appeared. It was almost like a game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you another level, like, you take a step and another level gets unlocked. Like, it was literally like I can't tell you, people I didn't even know would message me and be like, how can I give? How can I give? What do you need? Somebody sent me like $400. People I had not met in person. Because I just moved in the direction of the thing, and the provision just started to, even the place that I booked for the event, signed the contracts, everything, and then I get a message from their assistant saying, I know we said it's this much, but just give us this much. I just feel like I'm not supposed to charge you that much, so just give us this much.
Blessed.
But I don't know. It's just crazy.
Goodness.
God is good.
Yeah. All
the
time.
Oak Network said, yes, just jump. Absolutely. Holy pa jumping over here.
And moving with faith. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you got to talk to us about Keys to the Kingdom. I seen that you have that coming up. What is that about?
That's actually not mine. That is Dr. LaTanya Moore's. So she's in North Carolina, and she's been doing this series all month called Keys to the Kingdom. And she has a podcast called Spirituality, and she invited me on it. So my episode is actually up right now. If you go to her page, or even if you go to mine, you can see the information there. And she asked me to join her in a conversation specifically about keys to unlocking promises of God. And so in that podcast, I share 4 very practical ways that you can unlock, understand, apply biblical promises with accuracy and efficacy in your day-to-day life. Because sometimes we read things again and we don't always understand what we're reading, and we don't realize how much is available to us in the Word of God, like in a very practical, real for real kind of way. And so how do we tap into that and apply that in our daily lives? So my episode is episode 18 on the podcast, and it's called Unlock Promises. And so I talk about 4 keys to doing that. Yeah.
Yes, and she's just Oak Network, Lady O. What's up, Lady O? She's saying if it's God's will, then it's God's bill.
Absolutely. And I remind him of that. Like, and that's we were talking before about relationship, right? That we have the kind of relationship where I can now hold him to his word, and I can only hold him to his word because I know his word. And so, when I'm in situations where it feels like my back is against the wall, then I can remind him of his own words and say, listen, I didn't ask. Like, Preach This was not my idea. Like, I didn't ask to go to Atlanta, so you're gonna have me go out here and look the fool. That's on you, God. Like, this was the word you gave me. This is what's in your word. This is what you told me. So what you gonna do? Like, and those are the real to life conversations that I have with God all the time, because I'm like, half of this stuff I'm honestly just trying to daily just be obedient. Some stuff, it's but even the creativity and the ideas, they're things that he downloads and gives, but or things that I
Right.
desire to do. But a lot of the things, sometimes I go kicking and screaming. Like this series I'm doing right now, the speakers, it's a kicking and screaming series. Like it was not the direction I wanted to take my business in right now. But I couldn't, I was bobbing and weaving, for a long time and avoiding it. And then I just had to like just give life to it. And it's been such a blessing to so many women. And that's a blessing to me. Like when I feel like
Mm.
I've put something out in the world that's going to help somebody to do what they need to do with ease or more confidence, or even if they just feel like finally someone I can relate to. Like you talk about
Yeah.
sisterhood, how like being able to connecting is and
Yeah.
relating, it's we have such a deep need for it, and so even if it means someone sees what I'm doing, they sit in on a webinar and they're like, man, like I'm like, you're so much like me, or I didn't think of it that way, or I didn't think I could qualify. Like even just listening to this live and me sharing my story, like, wow, I didn't know you were a single mom and in church, and yeah, and if that can inspire someone, then I'm
Yeah.
good.
Definitely.
I'm good.
Your story was definitely inspiring, and that's why I had a couple of people in my DM like, what else, can we learn about Nicole Salmon? Like she seemed like she was holding back. She wasn't giving us all the juice. I'm like, I'll have her back on so that you guys could rewatch, and we'll ask her some more questions.
Yeah.
But definitely, sisterhood is huge.
Yeah.
Like being able to relate to each other as women,
Yes.
especially as Black women
Yes.
without the stigma of holding each other down and
Yeah.
any kind of negativity because we're all going through it, you know what I mean, on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis. I know that you are huge on sisterhood. How do you build or um, help women build up other women, you know?
How do I help women build up other women? I think by being a part of their own healing process. I think we've
Mhm.
all heard the saying by now that hurt people hurt people.
Right.
And I always say, be aware of the unaware. Like the insecure, unaware person is one of the most dangerous kinds of people you can ever have.
Hmm.
Like they're just, you just don't know when they're gonna pounce, how they're gonna pounce, because half the time it has nothing to do with you. It's when their own little insecurities start to flare up and bite them, then next thing you know, they're taking your head off too in the process. And so
Right.
I think that one, as I hopefully demonstrate that I'm a sincere, safe place, I hope that one, modeling that is helpful for other women, because sometimes I reach across, like I'll see a woman doing something so amazing and I'll be like, hey sis, oh my gosh, love what you're doing, da 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 da. I can feel the like, why are you talking to me? What's your
Mhm.
agenda? What's your angle? Like I can pick up that vibe. And so I just hope that the more I keep doing that, that other women will see that there are sincere women who just want to see you win. And in my work as a coach, a big part of what I help women journey towards through around purpose clarity is understanding themselves. And so as they heal, as they have a better understanding of themselves, I feel like that woman is in a position to support other women. When
Right.
you're so inward focused, you can't be a blessing to the people around you. But once you start dealing with the stuff in here and you get clear, then you're better positioned to give, and to give tangibly, to give emotionally. But broken people don't do that so well.
Right,
Yeah.
right, for sure. And there's a lot of that in our Black community, so it's beautiful to see another, Black female out here, as Lady O was saying, being the change that we want to see, because
Mm-hmm.
we definitely want to see this change out here. We need a huge sisterhood, and we need an authentic sisterhood,
And
women that we could
yeah. I think too,
go
changing
ahead.
that narrative too is a big part of it. Like, because it becomes
Right.
this self-fulfilling prophecy. Like we say things like, you can't trust women. That's why I don't keep no girlfriends. and da 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 da. Like, but I think
Right.
as much as I have had negative experiences, I have had more positive. Me personally, I know it's not everybody's story, but I feel like I've had, especially since I've been on this journey, I've met so many. Like, we haven't had a chance to meet in person yet, but like I've met so many amazing women who are just like, how can I be a part of what you're doing? How can I support? What do you need? Like, even when I was in Atlanta, like these two women got there early and they were like, okay, what do you need? And they just like were helping with setup, and like there's so much love out there, and I think that that as we heal, we see it. You know,
Yes,
as we heal,
definitely.
we see it.
Yeah. Important, very important. So what are you currently working on? I see that you had like a boot camp out.
Yeah. Well, other than coming off of vacation, the last week nothing, but tomorrow I'm back in office, and so what am I working on? In about 2 weeks, so August 11th, I believe is the date. I will be doing part 3 of my speakers boot camp series. And so the speakers boot camp, it's really um it's for female speakers. When you talk about sisterhood, I felt like, particularly in faith spaces and being a preacher, there were just so many, and even just whatever kind of speaker that you are, there's so many unknowns, and not a lot of people, as you said, are willing to share the juice, like are willing to share the behind the scenes. But I'm not that kind of person. Like, I'm like, if I had to struggle, I don't want you to have to struggle, right? So let me share. It really started off with, let me just share what I know, and hopefully it helps somebody. So the first series, so Bootcamp 101 was 7 tools that every female speaker needs to have in her toolkit. And so
Okay.
we go over things like contracts and bios and um, headshots, and I can't remember, but 7 things. We go over
Yeah.
speakers reels and all of that stuff. And I thought I was done, but while I was working on the first one, God gave me the second one. I had to just jot it down while I was working, and I was like, okay, God. I'm like, but I'm supposed to be purpose coaching. Why do you have me out here talking to women about getting their stuff together to speak, you know? But it's helping. I realize that, you know, a part of what I'm doing is helping women to align, has always been helping women to align their life with purpose, and now I'm helping them to align their message with their purpose as well. And so series 2 was amazing. We had series 2 was pulpits, platforms, and panels. So how to deliver an authentic and a impactful message every time. So what are the subtle nuances between speaking on a platform, in a pulpit, and how do you take like even one message and stretch it across the different mediums? How do you prepare differently? How do you charge for them? All of those things. And so in this last one, which I haven't even released yet, that the registration and all of that marketing will probably start going out towards the end of this week or next Monday, is, like I said, it's planes, trains, and automobiles. So how to bring your message to an international audience. And so I'll be
Yes.
sharing, it's a hilarious story on how Border Patrol, immigration, customs, whatever you call them, they held me at the border when we were going to preach this.
Why?
What's that?
Why? What
You
happened?
gotta come to the event to hear the story.
I gotta come to the event.
No, but basically, like, there
Oh
were
my
things
gosh.
I didn't know that I needed to have in place, like paperwork, and like
Yeah.
I thought driving would be better because I could bring like my backdrop and all my equipment, and it would be cheaper.
Yeah.
And it like drew down like all this attention, and I got pulled over.
Gosh.
They wouldn't let us cross. They were like, "You're not crossing today." And I'm like, "Lord Jesus!" Like, I would have been to tell everybody was like, everyone was like, "Preach sis, preach sis," and then I'm like, "What do I have to do?" Go on IG Live and go like, "Sorry guys, there's no preach sis." Like, I was
Wow.
just in a panic. But long story short, it had to happen for a reason, because while it was so scary, what he didn't know is God put him there to prepare me for the next time I had to cross. because he was like, what are you doing?
Okay.
Da 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 da. And I was so humble. God was like, don't you open your mouth. Don't you open your mouth, right? And I was like, it makes so much sense, sir. So you're saying what form is it that I need? I should have had an R2, uh-huh. And I should have had a letter that said what now? Uh-huh. And I should have packaged my stuff how? Uh-huh. So I've taken I've taken that like terrifying experience and I put that into this part 3 series to like teach people the logistics of what to do, what not to do, what paperwork you need to have in place, and just even how to start to build international connections. You know, people are always asking me, they see me doing these podcasts, they see me showing up on other people's events, and they're like, how are you meeting these people? How are you making these connections? And so I wanted to start to take some of that experience and again, put it into this boot camp series. It's a 45-minute, jam-packed, dish and tell kind of session, very hands-on, very practical. So August 11th is hopefully, God hasn't given me more, hopefully it's the final to a 3-part series for female speakers. Someone asked me, you know, they messaged me, they said, I'm not a Christian, can I still attend? 100%. It is applicable to any, if you desire to be a speaker or you're currently a speaker, even if you don't feel, if you're not a Christian or you don't minister in faith spaces. The only difference with my series is I do touch on things that are very specific to being a faith speaker. So things that, like little nuances that you need to know about when you go into churches, questions you should be asking, all of that good stuff. So I think part 1, you can actually purchase now. If you click on the link in my bio, part 1 is of the video training is available. And so I'm working on an ebook that is over 25 plug and play resources contracts, email templates. It's like literally everything you need to just kind of plug in your contact and hit the ground running, so that you can be a good steward of your gift and get paid what you're worth. Get paid what you're worth.
Right. Very important. That's key right there,
Yeah.
making sure you're getting paid for all the work you're doing, right?
It's
Gotta put in that
biblical.
work.
We talk about that too. I know sometimes we feel away charging. You know, I don't charge to preach, but I do charge to speak, and there's a difference. The Bible is not my intellectual property, but anything else around that is. And so I put a price tag on that, and it is very biblical, and we get into that mindset stuff too.
Yes, that's good. So do you have anything else coming up?
That's the main immediate thing. Of course, there's my annual calendar planning workshop that's happening in November. I believe it's November 8th, and I do that every year. I think this will be year 4, and I see Terry and Leslie on from Artist Touch Production. They are my audiovisual team, and we will actually be collaborating. We don't have the details yet to do I'll be doing a calendar planning tutorial, so like a little mini teaser course before the main event, and that'll probably be happening at the end of August. So best thing, I'm sure I probably gave people tons of information. Go to the link in my bio, click on I think it's join my mail list or whatever. Get on the mail list. That's where the party is. That's where I keep you up to date on everything that's happening. I'm constantly giving out free content. Last quarter, I was doing mentorship at a pay what you can rate. That wasn't public. It was only made available to those on my mail list. So that's where you need to be. You need to be on the mail list.
Yes, definitely. So for all of you guys, make sure you link in the bio and get on that mail list so we can keep up to date with everything that Nicole has going on. So the last time you were on too, you were talking about your super organization skills. I remember you were sitting behind a calendar.
Yes.
And you were just talking about your November date coming up where you're going to be planning stuff. So how do you stay organized?
You asked me such a huge question at the end of our hour. How do I stay organized? I honestly have a whole system, and so that's what I've thrown into this annual planning system. But what's the short answer? I write everything down. My motto is if it doesn't get written down, it probably doesn't happen. One of my clients that my mentoring clients, she had something she was supposed to do, and when we met for our accountability call the next week, it didn't get done. And she
Sorry, hold on, Nicole. Sorry, we're just about you.